Mom was afraid my bad cold would infect my sister, so she decisively gave me a whole bottle of cephalosporin via 4. Not long after, my whole body was burning and itching, and I knelt on the ground begging my parents to take me to the hospital. My sister pouted, aggrieved. "Sister, stop acting. I know you don't like me, but today is my first performance, and I really want the whole family to witness it." Dad and my brother quickly soothed her, then turned around and scolded me harshly for being insensitive. Mom also thought I was faking it, and impatiently locked me in the storage room. No one in our family is allergic to cephalosporin. How could your constitution change after being away for a few years? That poor countryside is no good. I'll cure your lying habit. Don't come out until you reflect. No matter how much I cried and pounded, that door never opened again, until I suffocated to death in the darkness. 3 days later, they celebrated and finally remembered me. I took the liberty of planning a family trip. Will sister be angry? My brother waved the leftover takeout food in his hand. This is a gift for her, just a little coaxing will do. I floated behind them, watching how they planned to coax a corpse. When I was locked in the storage room, I heard my brother Julian's hesitant voice. "I heard Serafina has claustrophobia. Won't something happen?" Dad scoffed. "She lived in a mountain village for so many years. Where did she get such a delicate illness? Don't listen to her nonsense." Mom chimed in. "That's a psychological illness. It's not that easy to get. She probably heard it somewhere and is just copying it. Honestly, she's full of problems." Julian was doubtful. "Is that so?" My sister Victoria replied. "Mom is a doctor. What she says must be right. Sister has been gone for so long. She must do something to get our attention. I just didn't expect her to use psychological illness to trick us. See." As she spoke, she choked up, blaming herself. "It's all my fault. If I hadn't fought with sister back then, she wouldn't have been left on the highway, and she wouldn't have gotten lost." When I was 8, our whole family went out to play, and on the way back, Victoria and I started arguing. Because I was a year older than her, I was always required to give in to my sister. Mom and Dad said, "How old are they and how old am I?" It was my fault for arguing with my younger siblings. So I was left on the highway as punishment. I cried and chased for a long time, but could only watch the car disappear quickly from sight in despair. Finally, after dark, I met a kind couple who took me home. The new home was in the mountains, very poor, but with a lot of love. When Mom and Dad found me, I didn't want to go back. But my adoptive parents couldn't bear to see me suffer with them, so they persuaded me to come back. If they knew that not only did I not enjoy happiness, but I also died here, they would be very sad, right? Seeing Victoria like this, Julian quickly comforted her. "What's your fault? You were only a few years old back then. She's the oldest sister. She should have given in to us. Besides, who told her to run around? She should have waited in place. It's her own fault for getting lost." Dad snorted. "Julian is right. It has nothing to do with you. She never acted like an older sister since she was little. She was born stupid and bad. I don't know how I could have given birth to such a daughter." Mom frowned and interrupted. "Alright, she's so old now. What's the use of saying these things? Just correct her bad habits." Like this time, she lied about being allergic and about to die, making a fuss. Just lock her up and let her reflect. She was still causing trouble just now, but now she's quiet. Locking her up a few more times will always correct her. Everyone nodded in agreement. I looked at the silent door panel and smiled bitterly. Don't worry, I won't cause trouble anymore. After all, I'm already dead. Before dying, the drug allergy caused my whole body to burn and fester, making me unbearably painful. The overwhelming darkness after the storage room was locked made my limbs numb, unable to cry for help. I could only curl up on the ground and gradually suffocate to death. I stared tightly at the door panel, hoping that, like before, my adoptive mother would open the door, gently hug me, comfort me, and tell me that it was all a nightmare. Unfortunately, the door never opened, and this wasn't that simple little mountain village. When I came to my senses, I was already floating behind them, heading out. Mom and Dad and my brother encouraged Victoria in soft voices. The whole family was harmonious. Just before getting in the car, Julian seemed to remember something and called the nanny over, instructing, "Don't let anyone open the storage room door until we get back." The nanny hesitated. Then what about Miss? How will she eat? Julian waved his hand, not caring. She won't die from missing a few meals. There's water in the storage room. Since Mom wants to teach big sister a lesson, she has to be harsh, otherwise she won't learn. Mom nodded, glancing at the nanny. With water, she won't die for at least 3 days. Listen to the young master. The nanny's lips moved, but ultimately she said nothing. I twitched my lips, remembering that when Victoria made a mistake, they said they would give her a lesson and forbid her from eating for a day. But when she didn't come down for dinner, they were more anxious than anyone else, coaxing her in low voices to eat more. I didn't understand. We are all Mom and Dad's own flesh and blood. We are all siblings with blood thicker than water. Why doesn't anyone love me? If you don't love me, why did you bring me back? After the performance, Victoria hugged Mom and Dad's arms and acted spoiled. I was so nervous on stage for the first time. I was scared and hungry. Dad scratched Victoria's nose, helplessly saying, I knew you were a little glutton. Let's go, I'll take you out for a feast. Victoria cheered. Yay, Dad is the best. Victoria was surrounded like a star, heading towards the pre-booked restaurant. Mister, right? The 4-person private room you booked a week ago is ready. Please follow me. I floated behind, entering such a luxurious restaurant for the first time. I remember when I first came back, I traveled by car for a day, and I was so hungry that I couldn't take it anymore. I saw a small restaurant in front, and I mustered up the courage to ask if I could just eat something to fill my stomach first. Mom followed my gaze, her eyes showing some disgust, and she covered her nose without saying anything. Dad didn't even look and said directly, Don't be like a pig. Don't get hungry just because you see food. There's food at home. You won't be missing out. By the way, the welcome banquet is at home. The restaurants are all full now. We can't make a reservation. Eating at home is the same. I raised my hand to cover my chest, so it turned out that I was just unworthy. The 4 of them filled the seats, competing to feed the little princess like Victoria. From beginning to end, no one remembered me. After dinner, as they were about to leave, there was a commotion in the lobby. Someone had a food allergy and was lying on the ground scratching himself, his face red all over. His friends called an ambulance and were asking the staff for an explanation. The person was scratched and bleeding, and looked like he was barely breathing. Victoria seemed frightened and pushed Mom and Dad to leave. My brother fell behind, lost in thought. After walking for a while, Julian suddenly spoke. Mom, I think that person's symptoms are similar to Serafina's. Why don't we have the nanny let her out to take a look? Although Mom is a doctor, she usually only deals with minor colds. Seeing a bloody person for the first time, she was also startled. After listening, she hesitated. Serafina has a fever, so it's normal for her to be red-faced and weak. Forget it, let her out then. She should have learned her lesson after being locked up for so long. Dad always agreed with Mom's words. It's good to let her out. Serafina is selfish and petty. If she's really locked up for a day, I'm afraid she'll think bad thoughts about Victoria. If there's a next time, we'll just teach her another lesson. As he spoke, he was about to call the nanny. Victoria paused her hand on the car door, frowned and complained. You promised you would all focus on accompanying me today, but now you're talking about sister in every sentence. I knew you didn't love me, you only love sister. Her eyes instantly turned red, looking so wrong that she seemed like she was about to cry in the next second. Dad quickly put down his phone and coaxed. What nonsense are you talking about? Victoria is the only little princess in our family. Mom held her in her arms, her voice so gentle that it dripped. Don't cry, baby. It breaks Mom's heart when you're like this. It's all our fault. We shouldn't have been distracted. Mom is wrong. Didn't you say you wanted to go surfing? Let's go now, okay? Victoria finally smiled again. Seeing Julian hesitate and still wanting to say something, she sighed, looking like she was going all out. You're just too soft-hearted, little brother. To be honest with you, sister might not be sick at all. She just doesn't want you to come and watch my performance. I didn't want to say it, but I did see her put a lot of heat patches in her blanket yesterday. It's hard not to get a fever and sweat with that, right? Julian was stunned for a moment, then angrily said, She tricked me? She's really from the poor mountains. She's not worthy of being on the stage. Mom and Dad's expressions weren't good either. A look of triumph flashed in Victoria's eyes. Then her tone was helpless. Sister is really too fond of lying and tricking people. What are we going to do in the future? Julian snorted coldly. Dad, don't make the call for now. Just pretend I didn't say anything. Victoria raised the corners of her mouth in satisfaction. I floated behind, watching them define me with just a few words. And there was not the slightest ripple in my heart. It's always been like this. They believe whatever Victoria says, and they're never willing to believe me. I floated numbly behind their car, and when I came to my senses, there was an ocean in front of me. Victoria was smiling brightly, holding a surfboard. Mom and Dad's eyes were full of doting, and Julian was also protecting her by her side. Mom took a bite of a coconut and thought it tasted good, so she asked them to move a few to the car. Victoria smiled sweetly and leaned over. Mom doesn't like coconuts, does she? Are they for me? Mom said amusingly. If you want to eat them, Mom will have them airlifted from Haiching for you. These are for your sister. She used to like the coconuts here the most. Victoria's smile stiffened, and she responded casually a few times before turning to go surfing. When we were little, Mom and Dad often took us to the beach to play. Dad would put me on his neck and let me touch the coconut trees. I liked to eat coconut meat, but I didn't know how to get it out myself, so Mom would thoughtfully dig it out and feed it to me. I always thought they loved me too, until one time, I ate all the coconut meat, without leaving any for my younger siblings. Mom slapped me and scolded me loudly in front of everyone on the beach for eating selfishly. Dad tied my hands and feet together, picked me up and threw me into the sea. When I was about to drown, he pulled me out and threw me in again. Repeatedly. They said it was discipline, so that I wouldn't become a selfish person, and I believed it. But since then I never went to the beach again, nor did I eat coconut. I will never forget the feeling of seawater flooding my lungs, as painful as before I died. So I had already died once back then. I didn't dare look at the sea. I could only fix my gaze on the beach. I noticed Mom seemed to be watching the security footage from home. I floated behind Mom and watched along with her, half of the screen emitting a faint green glow, me curled up on the ground. It was only then that I was surprised to discover that there was a security camera even in the storage room. Mom frowned and asked the nanny, "What did she say?" The nanny shook her head outside the door looking worried. "Miss hasn't responded. Could something have happened? Should I open the door and check?" Mom sneered. "No need, she's not a child. What could happen? Tell her she can't come out unless she admits she's wrong. Even if she lies on the ground for the rest of her life, no one will pity her." The nanny hesitated. "But Miss really did look like she was in a lot of pain earlier." Mom was impatient. "She's a habitual liar, it's all an act. If she doesn't change this bad habit, how will she inherit the family business in the future? She wouldn't be able to hold on to the money even if she had it." "But, no buts. Remember who's the master of this house. The master is educating their child, don't interfere." The nanny lowered her head and closed her mouth. Mom cut off the voice, wearily rubbing her temples. Julian didn't know when he'd come over, and when he caught sight of the security footage, he was stunned, a hint of panic flashing across his eyes. What's wrong with her? Probably discovered there's a security camera in the room, deliberately acting, trying to make us feel sorry for her. The concern in Julian's eyes disappeared, replaced by annoyance. How could I have such a scheming sister? She wasn't like this before. Yes, I wasn't like this, and Julian wasn't like this before either. Before I went missing, Julian was only 6 years old. He loved sticking to me the most, following behind me and calling me big sister in a soft voice. When he got something, he would give it to me first, letting me divide it among the 3 siblings. Sometimes he would secretly hide his treasured snacks and give them to me. In the car that day, only Julian was crying and shouting, "Let sister get in the car," at the rear window. But when I came back again, he had changed. The person he unconditionally favored had become Victoria. I understand, after all. Victoria is the one who has grown up with him over the years, not me. But how could it not be painful? The only person in this family who loved me wholeheartedly was also gone. When Victoria had had enough playing, they discussed their next itinerary. Julian looked at the security footage, anxiety flashing in his eyes, and suddenly looked up and said, "I'm a little tired from playing, let's go home." Victoria glanced at the screen looking unhappy. I just finished saying that I booked a 2-day, 2-night family trip. And the next thing you say is that you want to go home, Julian. What's wrong with you? As long as it's about big sister, second sister isn't important, is that it? As she said that, she started to look like she was about to cry again. Julian immediately panicked and flustered, and it took him a long time to make Victoria happy, and he didn't dare mention going home again. I indifferently looked away. As expected, there was nothing to be sad about. When leaving, passing by the marine artifacts store, Julian paused and went inside. When he came out, he was holding a delicate little bag. When Victoria saw that he didn't give it to her, her face immediately changed, and she opened her mouth as if casually. Julian, what are you holding in your hand? Julian casually put the bag in the trunk. Serafina likes seashells, but she's afraid to come to the beach. We've left her out for so long, so we don't have to deal with her fussing when we get back. I just bought a small trinket to appease her. Victoria almost lost control of her expression. A small trinket? The cheapest thing in that artifact store costs 10,000 yuan. Julian paused with a puzzled look in his eyes. Is it expensive? The limited edition surfboard I gave you was 800,000. Victoria choked and said in a worried tone, You can't say it like that. Sister has been living in poverty all these years. If her consumption level suddenly increases so much, I'm afraid her mentality will become vain and gold-digging. I'm also thinking about sister. Dad nodded in agreement. Victoria is right, I've seen such examples around me, and in the end, their family was ruined. Mom was a little scared. That can't happen. She already has a lot of problems. If she also becomes vain, that would be terrible. Victoria, what do you think we should replace it with? Victoria looked around and picked up a seashell from the ground that was still relatively intact. This will do. It's delicate and unique, and sister will definitely like it. If she doesn't like it, then that means sister already has a tendency to be a gold digger, and we can't let her go wild. I watched them defining me again and again. I was already numb, and only found it laughable. For the next 2 days, I coldly watched them laugh and talk on the cruise ship. Victoria said that this was time that belonged to her with the whole family, so she didn't allow them to touch their phones, which meant they missed one phone call after another from home. They had just gotten off the cruise ship when Mom answered the phone. Madam, why haven't I been able to reach you and sir for the past 2 days? Something terrible has happened at home. An ominous feeling flashed in Mom's heart, and she frowned and scolded. Say, what's the matter? Why are you so dramatic? Miss is dead. The air instantly froze. Julian snatched the phone. Do you still want to work here? What benefits did Serafina give you that made you help her tell this kind of lie? Young master, I'm not lying. Please come back and take a look. Miss's adoptive parents are also here, making a scene and wanting to take Miss home. Dad sneered. I think they're putting on an act with those 2 poor people to get money. Victoria was right. Someone this vain can leave if they want to. Tell them I won't give them a single cent. There was a commotion on the other end of the phone, and then my adoptive mother's heartbreaking cries came. You bunch of heartless people. Who wants your stinking money? If I had known you would treat Serafina so cruelly, I wouldn't have persuaded her to come back in the first place. You give me back my Serafina. Serafina is allergic to medicine and afraid of the dark. Not only did you not care about her, but you actually locked her up here and suffocated her to death. Are you even human? Hearing my adoptive mother's voice, I could no longer remain calm, and my heart ached as if a big hole had been gouged out. When I was first abandoned, I was completely enveloped in darkness and suffered from claustrophobia, afraid to sleep all night long. It was my adoptive mother who accompanied me night after night, gradually helping me to come out of it. Although the family was very poor, she would give me the best things within her means. Even if she was so hungry that she drank water, she would save money to buy me a small birthday cake. She said that I was the most well-behaved little angel, and deserved all the beautiful things in the world. It was at my adoptive mother's that I first felt love and learned to love. Mom was frightened by the shrill crying and was stunned, unable to speak. Dad quickly hugged Mom and shouted into the phone. Put away your crooked tricks. Serafina is a member of the Wen family, and however we discipline her is our family matter. Get out of my house immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for suing you for trespassing. With that, Dad hung up the phone. When Victoria saw that their minds were all being drawn to me, she immediately became unwilling. She pretended to faint and fell into Mom's arms. Mom was startled and came back to her senses at the same time, and quickly asked her with concern what was wrong. Victoria was pale-faced and weak. I haven't eaten anything all afternoon, and I just got off the ship, so I'm probably not used to it. Mom quickly said with concern, Then let's go eat first, it's not too late to go home after we eat. Dad nodded. Anyway, there are security guards at home, nothing will happen. Julian opened his mouth, but seeing Victoria's weak appearance, he ultimately didn't say anything. The family ate a tasteless dinner. After eating, Julian hesitated for a moment, and called a waiter to pack the food. Serafina probably hasn't eaten dinner yet, so I'll just take a gift to appease her. Dad remained silent, and when passing by a jewelry store, he went in and bought a pearl necklace, so she doesn't make trouble again. Victoria's face darkened, probably because she was dissatisfied that they had actually prepared gifts for me. Just as Victoria was about to make a fuss about going somewhere else, Julian suddenly interrupted in a deep voice. We've been out long enough, it's time to go home. Victoria looked ugly and unwillingly got into the car. Along the way, the car was unusually quiet. I leaned against the car window, not understanding why they looked so worried. It couldn't be because they were worried about me, could it? I recalled the disgust on my parents' faces when I was thrown into the storage room that day, as well as my younger brother's sarcasm, and twitched the corners of my mouth. When they arrived at the villa, their expressions became even more uneasy, and Julian's pace was even a little disordered. When the nanny saw them come back, she quickly greeted them with a flustered expression. Sir, madam, you're finally back. Go and see Miss. When Mom heard this, she breathed a sigh of relief and said irritably, See what? I knew you were bribed by that dead girl, and even dared to collude and lie to people, with no manners at all. This month's salary is cut in half. The nanny was stunned. What collusion? What are you lying about? Julian sneered. Still not admitting it? Tell me, what benefits did Serafina give you that made you help her lie? Don't blame me for not reminding you. She doesn't have much money in her hands. Be careful you don't get any benefits and lose your job. After the nanny understood, she said angrily, I've been in the Wen family for 40 years. I started working here when old Mr. Wright was still alive. I watched all 3 of you siblings grow up. Dad impatiently interrupted. Okay, go release Serafina and have her clean up and come see us. What's the point of elders rushing to see juniors when they come back from a trip? It's outrageous. The nanny's face was tense. Miss is already dead. Father roared. Don't think you can act entitled just because you've been here a long time. There are plenty of nannies. If you keep humoring that dead girl, don't blame me for being heartless. The nanny threw her uniform on the ground, her eyes reddening. You don't need to fire me. I'm leaving myself. I've wanted to quit working for homeowners who can't understand human speech a long time ago. I've said that Miss is dead. You're still going on about it. Is a matter of life and death just a joke to you? Seeing that Miss was having an allergic reaction to the medicine, and you still locked her up, even I, a nanny, know she has claustrophobia. How could none of you in the family know? Mom and Dad's faces froze, and my brother's complexion also turned pale. Only Victoria's lips curved into an almost imperceptible smile. Victoria frowned and stepped forward, displeased. Mrs. Davis, how can you talk to Mom and Dad like that? It's so disrespectful. Besides, everything sister does is faked. If it was real, Mom is a doctor. How could she not see it? The nanny glanced sideways at Victoria. You're the best at acting in this family. How dare you accuse others? The biological parents aren't as concerned about Miss as the adoptive parents. Go take a look in the storage room yourself. See how you forced Miss to her death. My eyes welled up with tears. Although Mrs. Davis didn't help me open that door, she was the only person in this family who cared about me. Even before I died, she was still pushing food under the door. Unfortunately, I couldn't reach it anymore. After the nanny left, Victoria sobbed twice. She just opened her mouth to speak when Julian interrupted her again. Such a fuss, it seems like she's really angry this time. But locking her up for too long was indeed too much. Let's just appease her this time. Julian seemed to say to himself, and then looked at Mom and Dad. Dad, Mom, second sister, Why don't you bring the gifts too? She should calm down when she sees so many gifts. Mom and Dad didn't object and took the gifts from the car. Julian noticed Victoria's empty hands, and his gaze paused. Where's your gift? Victoria stiffened and took out the seashell she picked up randomly. Although it's not as valuable as yours, the intention is priceless. Sister will definitely like it as long as she's not materialistic. In the past, they would have fondly agreed, saying that it was my good fortune to receive Victoria's carefully chosen seashell, and if I didn't like it, I would be ungrateful. But this time they frowned slightly and said nothing. The family walked towards the storage room with the gifts, muttering about how to coax me later. I floated leisurely behind them, curious about what their reaction would be when they saw my corpse. The door of the storage room was pushed open, and my highly decomposed corpse was unexpectedly revealed before them. My brother's hand froze on the doorknob. Mom screamed, and the gift bag in Dad's hand also fell to the ground. I looked at my corpse. Due to the cephalosporin allergy, large patches of hair had fallen out, and there was extensive necrosis of the skin and mucous membranes. My face was a bloody mess, and I was curled up on the floor, my whole body exuding fear. Fortunately, the air conditioning in the house was turned up high, and there wasn't too much of a smell in the room. But Victoria still couldn't help but gag, covering her nose. Hearing the noise, my adoptive parents mechanically turned their eyes and met the terrified family at the door. You're back, did you have fun? My Serafina was all alone, lying on the floor waiting for you for 3 days. My adoptive mother suddenly shouted hoarsely, if you didn't want Serafina, you should have returned her to me to raise. Serafina was such a well-behaved and sensible child. Why did you treat her like this? If you didn't like her, why did you look for her? And after you found her, you tortured her like this, not even giving her a quick death. How cruel. It's my fault. I shouldn't have persuaded her to come back. It's all my fault, Serafina. I'm the one who hurt you. It's Mom's fault. A wave of grief flowed from my heart to my limbs. I shouted, that's not true. It's not Mom's fault. I came back because I didn't want you to work so hard for me anymore. It's not your fault. Crying, I rushed forward to hug my adoptive mother, but I could only pass through her body again and again, finally leaning weakly against her side. It was only then that I truly felt the reality of death, and became uncontrollably sad. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to die at all. I hadn't made my adoptive parents' lives better yet. How could I die? Fortunately, I had already transferred some of the money in my card to my adoptive mother, enough for them to improve their lives. But it wasn't enough. I still wanted to take them to enjoy life in the future. Until the last second before I died. I was desperately trying to open the door. Mom noticed the streaks of blood on the door, as if suddenly awakened, and staggered towards my corpse. She seemed to want to hug me, but she found that there wasn't a single piece of good flesh, so she didn't know where to start, and fell to the ground beside me, crying bitterly. How could this happen? How could my daughter die? Serafina, wake up. Mom is back. Open your eyes and look at Mom. Dad came over and put Mom in his arms, his eyes filled with deep sorrow. I didn't understand. They didn't love me, so why were they so sad when I died? My adoptive father strode over and pushed them away. Get away from her. Don't get so close to Serafina, lest you taint her path to reincarnation. My adoptive father sneered. How could she die? You have to ask you. Even if you didn't know Serafina was allergic to cephalosporin, shouldn't you have done a skin test before the infusion? Serafina is your own daughter. Are you just too lazy to do it? Aren't you a doctor? If you can't even see the symptoms of an allergic reaction, what kind of doctor are you? You're a murderer. Mom shook her head and cried. No, no one in our family is allergic to medicine. Serafina could use cephalosporin when she was little. I thought she was just lying to get attention. I really didn't think. My adoptive father roared. You're talking nonsense. Serafina is very well behaved. She's never lied, and she would never compete with her younger siblings. My adoptive mother glared fiercely at Mom. You're not fit to be a doctor, and even less fit to be Serafina's mother. Even a country woman like me knows that a person's constitution can change. Would it kill you to do a skin test beforehand? Mom couldn't speak. She just shook her head and cried. My adoptive mother continued. Do you know why? Serafina didn't die from an allergic reaction. She died from claustrophobia, suffocated to death. Do you know how claustrophobia came about? When we found her, it was already dark, a small little ball huddled there. My adoptive father's eyes turned red. Dad was stunned, and his complexion gradually turned pale. At this moment, Victoria said in a tearful voice, her eyes red. It's all my fault. If I hadn't argued with Sister at that time, Sister wouldn't have gotten out of the car. It's all Victoria's fault. Mom and Dad scold me. In the past, when Victoria said this, Mom and Dad would comfort her and say that it wasn't her fault, but this time no one paid attention to her. Julian even said coldly, "Scolding you? Will Big Sister come back to life? Besides, back then, you were the one who snatched Big Sister's things first." Victoria's face instantly fell. "Julian, what do you mean?" Julian glanced at her coldly and ignored her. Victoria was so angry that she wanted to say something, but Dad interrupted her angrily. "Enough! Can't you let your big sister leave in peace? Serafina is already dead. What are you pretending for here? Victoria, I ask you during this time, was it really Serafina who was fighting with you?" Dad's eyes were fixed on Victoria. Victoria looked a little flustered. "Dad, why are you asking that? I'm the one that you and Mom raised since I was little. Don't you know what kind of person I am?" I sneered on the side. My younger sister had been good at acting since she was little. It was clear that she had done something wrong, but every time I ended up taking the blame. Dad looked straight at Victoria without saying a word. My adoptive father couldn't restrain himself anymore. "Serafina was raised by me. She's been well-behaved and sensible for so many years. She changed as soon as she came to your house." Victoria sneered. "She was faking it, obviously." My adoptive mother said to Mom, who was still staring blankly at my corpse, "You should know whether Serafina was faking it or not." Mom was silent for a while, then smiled bitterly. "Serafina has been sensible since she was little. She wasn't faking it. I said you were the eldest sister, so she yielded to her younger siblings in everything. I said you can't be selfish, so she never ate alone. I said get out of the car, and she really obediently got out. All the mistakes are my fault. Why wasn't I the one who died?" Sob, sob, sob. As Mom spoke, she burst into tears. Dad and brother also wiped away their tears. I looked at this scene, my heart complex. I believe that their current sadness is genuine, but it's too late. Belated affection is cheaper than grass. Seeing everyone in the room saddened by my death, a look of jealousy flashed in Victoria's eyes. She forced herself to overcome her disgust and stepped forward. "Mom, don't be like this. It's not your fault. No one wanted such a thing to happen." Before she could finish speaking, Mom suddenly raised her head. "That's right. It's not my fault. It's your fault. I said I wanted to go back less than 3 minutes after the car started. You were the one who stopped me. You insisted that your stomach hurt, and you had to go to the hospital. And you kept getting checked and fussing until it was dark. That's how Serafina got lost. You were just pretending at that time, weren't you? You evil person. Give me back Serafina. Give me back my daughter. Why wasn't it you who died?" Mom slapped Victoria in the face and said angrily, "All the things that happened after Serafina came back, you framed her, didn't you? Serafina is such a good child. It's impossible for her to steal money from the family, and she wouldn't steal her classmate's necklace either. And things like early relationships and renting a room, these things are impossible to happen to Serafina." Victoria covered her face in disbelief, tears welling up in her eyes. "Mom, I'm your daughter too. Don't you believe me anymore?" Before Mom could speak, my adoptive mother shouted angrily, "How can you have such a wicked heart at such a young age? Serafina and I talk on the phone every day. She told me everything. She saw you steal money from the family and use it to buy a bag, and you lied to your parents that it was a birthday present from your classmate in advance. You stole the necklace too. You had a bad relationship with that classmate, so you stole the person's newly bought necklace and threw it in the trash, and then smeared our Serafina. As for early relationships and renting a room, that's even more nonsense. Serafina works part-time as a tutor in her spare time. It just so happened that the boy's family owns a hotel. They were studying in the office." Mom and Dad were both stunned. "If that's the case, why didn't Serafina say anything?" Julian sneered. "Big Sister explained it many times. Did you ever believe her even once? Instead, You scolded her for being a habitual liar every time. After he finished speaking, he mocked himself. Didn't I not believe her either? The injustice that was on me was finally cleared, but I couldn't be happy. I pursed my lips. But is belated justice still justice? Seeing them looking so shocked, my adoptive mother seemed to feel that it wasn't enough, and tugged at the corners of her mouth. Do you know why Serafina wanted to work as a tutor to earn money? The family looked up blankly. She also wanted to have a family trip with all of you, take beautiful photos, and save a family photo of the one family with her in it. Their faces turned pale instantly, and Mom and Dad's eyes were filled with guilt. But you give her too little pocket money. The second daughter has an unlimited supplementary card, while Serafina only gets an irregular 300 yuan a month. The adoptive mother said with a face full of heartache. To save money, she took on 5 tutoring jobs in a row, only getting 4 hours of rest each day, but when she gets home, you still scold her for messing around and not studying. The mother finally couldn't take the stimulation. Her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. The adoptive father carefully picked up my corpse and wanted to take it back to the small mountain village for burial. Serafina suffered so much in the one family while she was alive. Are you still unwilling to let her enjoy peace in death? After the mother fainted, there was chaos. The father was already physically and mentally exhausted. Hearing this, he was silent for a long time and didn't stop him. After the mother woke up, her mental state was sometimes good and sometimes bad. When she was good, she would sit quietly by the bed, staring out the window, not knowing what she was thinking. Occasionally, when she glanced at where I used to be, a smile would appear on her face. When she was bad, she would smash everything in the room to the ground in a frenzy. If Victoria happened to be home, she would run to her room and beat and kick her, not stopping no matter how much Victoria begged for mercy and cried out in pain. She would only stop when someone pulled her away, or when she herself was tired. Victoria couldn't stand it after a few days, and stole a large sum of money from home and ran away. But before she could spend much of the money, she was cheated out of it all. When reporting the crime, the police discovered that she was a suspect in another theft case and arrested her directly. The father didn't even see Victoria before sending her to prison. On the day Victoria was sentenced, the mother came to the beach alone. I watched her take off her shoes and socks and walk barefoot into the sea. When her gaze swept across where I was standing, she smiled gently. Serafina, are you scared all alone? How about Mommy comes to keep you company? Mommy already knows she was wrong. I'll definitely be good to Serafina in the future. Don't ignore Mommy, okay? Serafina, Mommy's good daughter. Was the water this cold when you were thrown into the sea? Don't be afraid. Mommy is coming to be with you. I watched the sea gradually engulf the top of the mother's head, and I couldn't describe what I felt. I just remembered that the seawater was really cold back then, and the feeling of seawater pouring into my lungs hurt so much that I wanted to die. After the father learned that the mother had jumped into the sea, his back suddenly collapsed, as if he had become an old man in an instant. He handed over all the company affairs to Julian, who was still in school, without worrying about whether Julian could handle it. After taking care of the mother's funeral, he left with the mother's ashes and was never heard from again. I don't know where he went, and my soul was imprisoned next to Julian again. Julian suddenly took on a whole mess, and was in a state of chaos every day. He couldn't do well in class, and he couldn't manage the company well either. When he came home after a busy day, only an empty villa greeted him. Before long, he couldn't stand it anymore. He probably felt that living like this was meaningless, so he simply dropped out of school and sold the company. He donated part of the money he sold to poor mountain areas, and part to a missing children search platform. Because he had a certificate in psychology, he joined a special children's school, dedicated to helping children with psychological disorders get out of the shadows. He was gentle and patient at school, and many children liked him. Mr. Julian, why did you come to be our teacher? Julian still smiled, but sadness filled his eyes. Maybe to atone for my sins. As soon as he finished speaking, I suddenly felt a lightness on my body. Before my soul dissipated, Julian seemed to sense something and his gaze swept over. I didn't care because I was going to welcome a new life.